Hello, Janesville, and welcome back to the Park Place Council Recap. I'm your host, Nick Faust, and as always, I'm joined by City Manager Kevin Lahner as we take a look back at some of the key items from the council meeting of Monday, October 27th. Thanks for joining me, Kevin.
No problem.
Now, I want Kevin to jump into something that we had heard about, and there had been some announcements, but really the first kind of kickoff for a new initiative or partnership, and that is the Habitat for Humanity coming back to Rock County and specifically starting their efforts off in Janesville. As I understand, there was an important piece of council action last night for that.
Yeah, so we were able to transfer a piece of property to Habitat for Humanity and kick off their first single-family home in the city. So it was a piece of property that was acquired through the tax foreclosure program a while back, and we had taken a house down on the property, and it was the perfect fit for what they wanted to do here in Janesville. So it's the first property that they're going to do in Rock County and in the city, and they have been awarded funds to do up to 4 houses with funds from our Community Development Authority, and so that is really exciting. It's really great to welcome them into the community. It's a great organization. They build single-family affordable homes that are owned by the folks that live in them, and most people are familiar with the model, but the owners help build the houses as well as volunteers, and it's a very, very exciting development, and we're happy to support it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the first of a few builds that they're going to look to do as we get into the years to come, and it comes, from what I understand, at probably a critical time when we're thinking from the city's perspective about how we build more affordable housing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a critical shortage of affordable homes, both rental and home ownership. The home ownership market is extremely difficult to get into in Janesville, and finding places that we can, partnerships that we can do to create affordable homes, both home owned and rented, are very, very important for our future viability. We need more places where people can live and they can afford, and we're really happy to support this effort.
Great to hear, and great to hear from those folks. Wish them well and encourage the community to learn more about that program. Next, Kevin, I want to kind of talk about something. There was not an action item on the agenda for it, but we saw quite a bit of turnout last night for the data center proposals or the idea of that relative to the JATVMedia site. Could you kind of go over, what we had heard, where the city is, and what's next?
Yeah, so I gave a general overview to the folks that were here and the City Council as to where we're at, and then we had a closed session to give the council more details about the negotiations that we're going through as it relates to a possible data center development. And so there's a bunch of folks here that are concerned about the prospect of a data center, and I totally get that. There's a lot of information out there about data centers and what they are, and some of the challenges that have occurred as a result of them. And so I get the fact that folks are concerned about that sort of development. We are going through a process of evaluating proposals to build one. It's a reaction to interest in the JATVMedia site that the city acquired. And we're just trying to go through a very thorough, deliberative process in order to make a recommendation to build a data center or not on that site. And it's really just the very, very first mini step in a multiple step process where we would possibly bring in a letter of intent to the City Council to approve, and then kick off a series of additional studies and information gathering and all those sorts of things that go along with the potential development. And so that's where we are. A couple of things, is that there's a lot of fear there, and there's a lot of information out, I guess, on the internet and other places that really don't reflect accurately what's occurring in the data center world today. And so, that's just something that we're going to have to address as we move forward. But, one of the big things is folks are concerned about water use, right? And some of the early versions of the data centers used a lot of water, and there's been a lot of talk about how that's negatively impacted some communities. Well, over the course of this investigation, of what data centers are and stuff, we've learned that the industry as a whole has moved away from large amounts of water. So they're moving towards air-cooled and what's known as closed-loop systems in order to cool their facilities. And so they don't have as much of a strain on the infrastructure as they once did. The other big concern that is out there is about power usage and about how it impacts people's energy bills. And the thing that folks don't understand necessarily is that, number one, they do use a lot of power. There is no getting around that. Power has to be generated for these things, and the energy companies are taking steps to generate the energy. But what most folks don't understand is that the companies, the end users, pay 100% of those costs. It doesn't get passed on to the consumers, to the average residential user. They have to pay for all of the infrastructure, and they have to pay for all of the use once they're built. And so I understand that there's a lot of concern, and I understand that folks are worried, justifiably so, about what comes next. And I just want to make sure that folks know that we are taking every step that we can to ensure that the next step we take is the right one for the community, and we're going to go down every avenue to make sure that happens.
Yeah. So it sounds like the fact-finding mission that the city was on, A, it continues, but B, it's important to kind of point out there, as hard as it is, that there's some nuance, and it's not necessarily apples to apples when we think of these large developments or what we read and see online, but that the process the city is going on will continue. And I think you used an adage for football that we are perhaps on the 1 yard line going the other way.
Yeah.
And this is just the initial phase.
Exactly. And we're committed to a process, and we're committed to presenting information to the public so they can consume it, so that they can ask questions and that sort of thing. At this point, we don't have any solid proposal to present. We are going through the very initial phases of figuring it out. And once we take that next step, we'll present the information to the public, and we'll keep going from there.
Wonderful. And I want to encourage folks at home who are interested in keeping abreast of the issue to go ahead and visit the city's website, janesvillewi.gov, and go under the Initial Data Center Insights page, where they can learn some additional information as the city acquires it on the process. But I think that's about all the time we have today, Kevin. I want to thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for having me again.
And I want to thank you, the residents at home, for tuning into the Park Place Council Recap. If at any time you'd like additional information on the items we discussed here today, I want to encourage you to visit janesvillewi.gov/materials. For the Park Place Council Recap, I'm Nick Faust, and we'll see you next time.